I'm from Montana originally, and Glacier is an amazing place. Not trying to brag or anything here, but I got my National Parks annual pass here, so it's kind of free for me to go every day.
I love that. You got to love our national parks.
I know, I love them, absolutely. I've been to most in the West. Haven't gotten to any of those East Coast parks yet, but man.
Got to make it out there.
They're great out here. I just, man, my wife and I were at Yosemite about a month ago.
Oh, okay.
We somehow missed all the crazy lines and just had an absolutely wonderful experience there. It was
I'm
so
glad to hear
great.
that.
So, anywho, let's get to your forecast. This whole area we live in should be a national park. Pinnacles is amazing. The Santa Cruz Mountains are amazing. Our coastline's amazing. Big Sur is just like unparalleled. I mean, we're pretty lucky to stay here, I feel like. Live look from Domenico's tonight showing a little bit of cloud cover out there. We have some city lights reflecting at this hour, but it's been a pretty nice night. We have a few low clouds, mostly on the south and east sides of the bay. Visibility still looking good out there at all area airports. No fog. As the marine layer is actually pretty deep, but just not all that stable. So without that stability, it's hard to really get a real static cloud layer to develop. We do have some clouds where the air is being pushed upward toward the mountains, but at the moment, it's only partial cloud cover around the bay. Temperature-wise, it's still pretty mild. It's just outside a moment ago in Salinas. It's actually kind of breezy here still, so the wind is keeping the inversion from really developing all that strongly here in the low levels anyway. For the most part, upper 50s to low 60s, and really not all that different inland. We're in a relatively cool air mass. Our inland highs today were below normal. So even with all that sunshine, it was a little cool today. Maybe you were able to get out and get some chores done. I know a lot of folks live maybe on a ranch in southern Monterey, San Benito counties. Maybe up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, you can get out there and do some yard work because it's been kind of warm lately. That heat is coming back this weekend, so now's a good time to take care of it. The bigger picture showing, as far as our weather pattern is concerned, a couple areas of low pressure off to our north, one to the northeast, one to the northwest, and just overall weak troughing over the west coast. So just say weak low pressure here locally. We're still watching the monsoonal ridge, which is kind of shut off at the moment. It will kick back to the west this weekend, though, and eventually kind of be centered off to our south, which is going to mean a big warm up for us. So this is going to happen over the course of about 48 hours. That's going to heat us back up again. But in the meantime, overnight tonight, we're dealing with low clouds. They'll eventually fill back in around the bay. Santa Cruz, it may be a while before you see the clouds. I'm talking it might be like right around dawn by the time they return. But again, I'm not expecting really fog in the low levels tomorrow morning. You might see some in the coastal hills, but that's about it. During the afternoon tomorrow, with the ridge starting to move back in, we may see an increase in stability on that layer, which makes it more likely for the clouds to stay on the south side of the bay tomorrow. Today, we were just so deeply mixed that there was a brief period, at least, where we didn't have any low cloud cover at all around the bay. And then it tried to come back around the peninsula in the late afternoon. But tomorrow it looks like we have a better chance of, even though our overall air mass warming up, holding on to a few of those clouds, which ultimately will cool down a few areas tomorrow. So I've got you cooler on the south side of the bay tomorrow, whereas almost every other location warms up. So let's get to some of those temperatures tomorrow. Here's where we're headed in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Back into the mid-80s in Boulder Creek and Ben Lomond, Felton, 82 in Scotts Valley, 80s at the top of the hill, Bonnie Doon in the 80s. Upper 60s to 70s on the coast. Should be a nice warm day in downtown Santa Cruz. You have a sea breeze at the boardwalk and over on West Cliff. Down to the south and east, 60s where we're more likely to see clouds, low 70s where we're not. 70 in Salinas tomorrow. 80s in our northern valleys. Temperatures warming anywhere between 5 to 10 degrees tomorrow inland. Over to the Monterey Peninsula, cooler temps tomorrow, mostly in the low to mid 60s. Monterey's high a couple of degrees below normal for this time of year. And then farther south, Carmel Valley, a pleasant day, mid 70s. The Big Sur Valley getting into the low 80s tomorrow. But the majority of the populated Salinas Valley in the 70s and 80s, and our higher valleys and out on your ranches tomorrow in the south, we may get into the 90s. So temperatures heading back upward. We'll see that on the 7-day forecast. We'll be up a couple more degrees Saturday and then peak on Sunday on the coast with lots of sunshine. Coastal sunshine just in time for a weekend. Can't get any better than that. Next week's a little interesting because it looks like we see low pressure return a little bit, which will probably increase the clouds. But then things get a little wonky after midweek. It looks like we're trying to warm back up again, so temps head back upward. Inland areas also peaking on Sunday with highs about 7 degrees above normal on average, and then kind of going up and down next week. One other thing to consider here too, some models continue to show some tropical moisture sneaking up here in about 8 or 9 days. So we're talking Friday or Saturday of next week. All surrounding an as of yet developed tropical cyclone off of Mexico. So that system hasn't started yet, Models are developing it and then bringing its remnants into California in the form of high clouds and maybe some high-based thunderstorms. That's a ways out, something we're watching really closely, but I'm not going to really add that to the forecast until that system actually forms and we can kind of get an eye on it. Austin?
Thank you so much, Dan.